podcast has fans from Omaha to Paris. She said that she's unqualified and her name is Anna Ferris.
The TPA slogan.
Every single one of them, even Joe Rogan. Podcast.
Everyone's got one, every mother, son, and daughter.
Podcast.
Download them from my brain, I really think they oughta.
Podcast. Not to be too indiscreet.
I'm office ladies in the streets. Freakonomics in the sheets.
Conan, Seth, Jenna Fisher, Sarah, Kane, Kara, Swisher, Heavyweight, Always Sunny, Up First, Planet Money, Crime Junkie, Dateline, Ben Shapiro, Ezra Klein, making space for hold a copy, nothing rhymes with hold a copy.
Welcome to the show. The Ambies are awards for the finest audio. We elevate the best from the depths of all the rest. We listen to them all, MP3 to uncompress. Welcome to the Ambies. These are the nominees.
Everyone's got a podcast. Everybody's got one. Even my brother, and me. Seriously, it's called My Brother, and Me.
And you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and review. It helps our show grow and find an audience.
Welcome to the second annual Ambies, the awards for excellence in audio. Here are your hosts, Ross Matthews and Nikki Boyer.
Oh, wow, cute yellow suit. Hi, everybody. How exciting. Good evening and welcome to the 2022 Ambie Awards, celebrating the very best in podcasts. And I know, you're here. Look, it's real life when we're back. Isn't that fun? And what a thrill to be co-hosting with my close friend and former lover, Nikki Boyer. Thank you so much.
Ross, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
No.
Trust me, thank you.
Can you believe this? This is the biggest day in podcasting, the 2022 Ambie Awards, or as I like to call it, the one night a year people actually give a shit about your podcast.
No.
Right?
No, I will not stand for that. Podcasts are amazing, Nikki. They tell incredible stories. They take you on unforgettable adventures. And they offer you 20% off meal delivery services with promo code ROSS. That's 20% off, promo code ROSS. Thank you.
So Ross and I are huge fans of podcasts, but I think we all know Ross from television, right? You started Jay Leno's show, and then Chelsea, and then RuPaul's Drag Race, and then the Drew Barrymore show, which is amazing. But you started a podcast way back in 2014 that we actually co-host together, Straight Talk with Ross Matthews. And so I think back in 2004, that's a long time ago. I would maybe call you a podcasting trailblazer?
No, trailblazer, no. I prefer hero. But we are here tonight at the Mayan Theater in real life. You guys, this is not a Zoom meeting, okay? You're not daydreaming. We're here. Touch, look, we're touch. Hi. Doesn't it feel good? And did you know the Mayan Theater, I found out today, this is where they shot the scene from The Bodyguard where Whitney's saying Queen of the Night, right here, remember?
Is that really true?
Yeah, I think it's true. I wouldn't lie about The Bodyguard. They told me that. I just believed it.
So does that actually mean that tonight you're the Queen of the Night?
Yes, bitch. Get prepared to carry me out of here with a little headset. My little Kevin Costner, Nikki. And one of the things we are most excited about tonight, other than the bottomless Chardonnay, you're welcome, is the fact that we are live and in person.
I am so excited about this. So please, audience, make some noise so that the people watching at home
Oh, yeah.
know that we're not faking it.
We are not faking it.
Right, you hear that?
Yeah.
We're not faking it. This is real. And as Ross's former lover, I know a thing or two about faking it.
Yes, she does. Okay. And I have to say, and I've always said this, the best kind of audiences are the kind of audiences who have been locked in their home for 2 years without any human contact. So, you know what that means, Nikki? We're killing it.
Yeah, the bar is low. Woo!
It is low, and actually the bar's right back there. I'm going to be there in a minute. You know, this pandemic has been a real nightmare for everyone, and performers who rely on audiences have been hit especially hard. But throughout the past 2 years, the art of podcasting has persevered.
Yes,
Do not fuck with the podcaster.
Woo! And during the pandemic, there's been a huge growth in the number of people who listen to podcasts and a huge growth in the number of podcasts that people make.
Yeah, just last week, the CDC announced that there are now more podcasts in the U.S. than there are people in the U.S. And the CDC is always right,
yeah.
always right. It seems like everybody has a podcast these days, right? I alone have 9 podcasts.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, I have 10. I just got another one. Thank you.
So do you remember when we started podcasting,
Yeah.
the most common response to, do you want to be on my podcast, was, what the fuck is a podcast?
Yeah,
Like, what the-
I do, and funny you ask. So a podcast is a combo of 2 words, iPod and broadcast. Did you know this? It really is, and they put them together. Don't you love that when they take 2 words and make a brand new word?
Yeah,
like
I
lunch
do.
and brunch.
Yeah.
You know, your brunch and, what is it?
Lunch and
Breakfast is
and
brunch.
brunch.
Murse is
Oh,
a
yeah,
man
man
purse.
purse, yeah.
Labradoodle is a poodle, and a Labrador.
yeah.
I just described 3 of my favorite things.
So listen, just 3 years ago, there were 275 million podcast listeners around the world, okay? This year, the number is over 400 million. And 2 years from now, it's expected to pass 500 million listeners. It's just blowing my mind.
I know, I didn't know there'd be math involved in
I'm
this,
sorry.
but next year, podcast advertising and that their spending in the U.S. is set to surpass $2 billion, you guys.
And in 5 years, it's projected to be $95 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no wonder everyone in this room is so wealthy. I saw y'all pulling up in your Teslas and your Range Rovers at the Mayan Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, I pulled up in my 2014 Prius.
Yes, but that Prius is paid off, Nikki,
That
so
is
be
true,
proud
yeah.
of that. And Nikki is too modest to mention this, but she won in Ambies last year in the category Podcast of the Year for Dying for Sex. My friend. And I was in New York, and I was watching the Ambies online, and I'll never forget when you won, how surprised you were. Do you ever go back and watch that?
I'm so grateful for the moment, but I do not need to see that back.
Oh, you don't ever want to see it again?
No, absolutely. I could go never seeing that moment again because it's just it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, let's roll it.
Gosh, okay, so I'd like to thank the Podcast Academy. Thank you so much. Hernan Lopez, you are an amazing, rare soul. Thank you for giving this project wings. Marshall Louis, I appreciate you. Jem Sargent and the whole wonderful Wondery team. Stephanie Jens, you are my creative soul sister. Your writing and your storytelling are perfection. Laura Donna Palavoda, Janine Cornello, thank you for being amazing. Britton Perlman, David Evans, thank you for being my safe space. Corey Moss and Brad Godfred, James Morgan, your beautiful music, Sergio Enriquez, Marcelino Villapando, and to Molly's parents, Joan and Alex, thank you. I love you both. And to my sweet Tommy Fields, thank you for your support, my loud-ass family upstairs in St. Louis, but mostly thank you to Molly. Without you, the story would not have been what it was, and you are with all of us, and I didn't know that you wouldn't be here for this, but your spirit will always be with me, so thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, Nikki. Remember?
I do.
I know. You were in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was that noise I heard?
That was my extremely drunk, screaming family, which kind of reminded me of Christmas or any other holiday really at my house, if you think about it. But it was just such a great moment, and watching that back, I actually got emotional. Just, oh, it's that time of the month.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh, shoot, okay. Well, someone out here is going to have a moment like that tonight.
Yes.
The nominees are all here. Let's hear it for this year's slate
Yes.
of nominees.
Yes.
Nikki, Nikki and I take our job as your host very seriously this evening, so we did our homework, and we have both listened to every single second of every single nominated podcast here tonight.
Yes, actually, we really did. It took a long time when I was driving in my cheap Prius.
Yeah.
But tonight, the topics really that are covered are absolutely endless. Nominees include podcasts with titles like A Slight Change of Plans.
Oh, A Slight Change of Plans, yes. That's a podcast all about trying to stay on your diet, but you end up in the Del Taco drive-thru on the way home from the happy hour. A Slight Change of Plans. There's a podcast, Hooked. Hooked nominated tonight.
Actually, that's a podcast about a guy that I once dated who had a really crooked wiener.
Oh, I liked him.
I know.
Yeah.
Is he here tonight?
There he is. I see you.
Oh, there.
All right. Another nominee tonight is called An Arm and a Leg.
Yes,
It's a podcast about how much I spend on decorative throw pillows at Home Goods.
That is very, very true.
Yes.
And then Planet Money.
Planet Money is a podcast all about where the Kardashians live. Congratulations on that.
Oh, and then there's The Friendship Onion, right, which is a podcast about that one time that we split the Awesome Blossom at Applebee's. Do you remember that?
I do. You still owe me a Venmo. And then there's a podcast called The Imperfection.
Oh, yay, The Imperfection. Nice.
The Imperfection.
Yeah.
I can't relate to that one, but...
Must be nice. In all seriousness, tonight really is all about you.
You guys.
I'm looking at all of you, and I'm so...
And up there, look, there's people there too. Look,
hi, up there.
Hi, it's
And
dark.
some of you are at home. Listen, you've all created content that is incredibly inspiring and entertaining, and we both know how hard that is to do.
Yeah, so really tonight, we want to make sure you all feel the love. The people who create the podcast, tonight is for you. So on behalf of all the listeners across the globe who are watching right now, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and congratulations.
Mwah! And we would like to say thank you to the Podcast Academy sponsors.
Hey, sponsors!
Woo-hoo!
Yeah, like many podcasts, this show would not be possible without the generous and well-earned support of our sponsors.
We love them. We appreciate them, and we carry photos of them in our wallet.
Yeah, I invite you over to Thanksgiving next year. Come on over. Everyone just buy their products. Buy us some if you want to.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sponsors. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So what do you say we start giving out some awards, right? Let's get this party started.
Yes.
Please welcome the CEO and founder of Adonde Media, Martina Castro.
Come on, Martina.
Yay!
Thank you so much, Ross and Nikki. I am very excited to be here for my first Ambies ceremony and to get to recognize some of the greatest work being produced in audio today. We're kicking off this evening with an award in one of the most popular Ambies categories, a genre that can say it brought millions of listeners to podcasts for the first time and is perhaps the only one honored with various parodies on Saturday Night Live. Here are our nominees for Best True Crime.
Best True Crime Podcast. Brought to you by The Hollywood Reporter. Believe Her. Confronting Columbine. Criminal. Do You Know Mordecai? Firebug. Over My Dead Body, Fox Lake. Suspect.
And the winner is Best True Crime Podcast, Suspect.
Thank you so much. Oh, I'm so nervous, really nervous. They only give you 30 seconds for these. I'm looking at the clock right here. The credits, you can look at the credits, the long list of people that contributed to the show. But what I wanted to say tonight is these narrative shows, this took us years to make. It took a lot of money and a lot of time. And above all, it took the trust of people who saw the promise in the show and stuck with it. And without that, you can't make good journalism. You can't make good podcasts. So thank you for that. You all know who you are. Thank you again.
So while we are all familiar with many of tonight's nominees, not every podcast we honor this evening is well known. And for some creators, their nominated show is also their first venture into this medium.
Just really quickly wanted to say how honored we are to be here tonight. It's been an incredibly long journey for us with a lot of no's, a lot of rejection, a lot of people telling us that our ambitions were too high. So thank you to everybody that supported us. What the Ambies really means to us is legitimacy to new producers, to upcoming talent, and to great stories.
I'm so honored and happy to receive these nominations from the Ambies. Thank you, Podcast Academy. This is my first foray into the podcast world, so here we are, straight out the crate with 2 nominations. Thank you from me and also from my fabulous team at WUNC.
It's really exciting to be nominated, to have our little Aussie show on the big world stage, so thank you. Our show is all about asking questions and staying curious. It's a show that encourages thinking and wondering about the world and just staying curious.
You know, we made this thing just because we wanted to tell like a real story about 9/11, just to like give a real voice to it, you know, in a way that was not from like an outsider telling our story. You know, for us, our independent company to be nominated for not 1, but 2 Ambies, it's a real honor and it's a real kind of testament to just finding your own voice, telling your own story. And I'm so grateful to our whole team at Rebellion Media and to the Ambies for nominating us.
I wanted to tell a story that addressed issues that I was seeing around me with police violence, gentrification, and racial tension, and address these issues head on, but also from a place of hope to inspire unity and also reconciliation. Because, you know, we're not the divided states of America, we're the United States of America. So I wanted to tell a story that showed how we can love our neighbor as ourselves. To just be in the room with such talented creators, podcasters, businesses is an honor. So thank you so much.
When I first heard the concept of our podcast, to decolonize one word at a time, I knew that we had something really special. This is a podcast by Indigenous people for anybody who wants to know more about our history and how it got so twisted. I am honored that our podcast is up there with some of the other great podcasts from around the world. It just goes to show what happens when Indigenous people can tell their own stories.
I started this show just because I've always been fascinated by the people and stories that you didn't usually hear about. A world champion tree climber, a professional cuddler. What are their lives really like? Being nominated for Best Interview Podcast, honestly, it means a lot. It really does. I'm one guy in his living room, and the only thing that I've ever wanted was to share the show and for somebody else to think it was good.
I created the show because I was working at a store that sold a lot of custom items that often got returned to us and then never were sold again. Being nominated for an Ambie means everything. We have a very small team, and as we look to grow the show, grow the team, and our careers, being able to say that we were recognized by the industry is just the biggest game changer ever.
In addition to recognizing overall excellence in a particular genre, the Ambies has several categories that honor the specific talent of an individual or team. The first that we will be celebrating this evening are the nominees for Best Scriptwriting Nonfiction. And the winner is Best Scriptwriting Nonfiction. Have you heard George's podcast?
I'm completely honored. Sorry I can't be there right now. I really wish I could. I wasn't prepared. I don't have a speech prepared. Thank you to my one collaborator. It's just two of us that make this. Ben Brick, you're the perfect partner on this journey. Thank you to you guys. We dream of reaching out to an American audience. We are literally two guys in a room. It really means a lot that you're listening. Thank you to the Podcast Academy. Thanks to all the nominees, everyone who makes this event, this space so exciting. Thank you to my beautiful wife, Sandra. And yeah, man, thank you very much for this honor.
Congratulations. The nominees in this next category range from funny to informative to poignant, always accompanied by insight. These are the nominees for Best Society and Culture Podcast.
For Best Society and Culture Podcast, the nominees are Billy Was a Black Woman, Cheat, Ear Hustle, Heavyweight, Higher Learning with Van Lathan and Rachel Lindsay, Into America, Storytime with Seth Rogen,
And this year's Ambie for Best Society and Culture Podcast goes to Billy Was a Black Woman.
Thank you, Podcast Academy. Billy Was a Black Woman is a show about what it means to be a black woman in today's America through the eyes of Billie Holiday, who was an activist in her own right during her time. This award completely belongs to Rebecca Carroll, who not only hosted the show, but wrote it, created it, to the Spoke Media team, who did a lot of work, to our Audible original team, who helped us support it, and to the Paramount team. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I told you we hand out awards. That was fun. Hi again. Hi.
Did you miss us?
Okay. Hey, before we present the next award, it's time for us to hear from one of our evening sponsors.
We Crashed, about a $47 billion startup.
There was a lot of talk about movement and culture and spiritual awakening and empowerment.
Listen to We Crashed on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or you can listen ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts or the Wondery app. Tune in after each Apple TV Plus episode to the We Crashed podcast for special bonus episodes hosted by Scott Galloway.
Thank you.
How much do we love Wondery? I love Wondery.
We do.
Wondery is great.
Okay, we love Wondery. We got it. All right, hey, anyone out there watch the news and realize it feels like true crime and politics have sort of merged into one thing out in the real world? Yeah.
But the Emmy still recognizes them as separate categories for the time being.
So until that changes, here are the nominees for Best Political or Opinion Podcast.
For Best Politics or Opinion Podcast, the nominees are Billy Was a Black Woman. Can he do that? Pod Save the World. Post Reports. Skullduggery. Stay tuned with Preet. The Messenger.
Okay, I know she's in heels, sorry. Okay, and the winner is Billy Was a Black Woman.
Thank you very much, twice. What unbelievable. To the Spoke Media team, Janelle, Aaliyah, Keith, Tiffany, Simone, thank you very much. To the Audible team, Maggie, Stella, Aaron, thank you for supporting it very much. Thank you very much, you guys.
Okay, hold on. We have to talk about this. He's the fastest walker. I don't know what happened. And then I'm in heels. I'm following him in New York City, and he's like 7 steps ahead.
I got places to go.
I'm like a chihuahua. Okay, here we go. So, congratulations, by the way. That was amazing. Okay.
Good job.
So, every podcast really is a comedy podcast. If you listen to it at 3 times the speed, it's like, hey,
Yep.
but only some podcasts are funny if you listen to them at the good old regular speed.
And here are several of those comedy podcasts that really hit the mark.
For Best Comedy Podcast, the nominees are Best Friends with Nicole Byer and Sashir Zameda. How Did This Get Made? Nosy Neighbors. The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, Ears Edition. The Sarah Silverman Podcast. Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. Why Won't You Date Me with Nicole Byer.
Those heels are not going to be on for long. Okay, you ready?
Yes.
And the award goes to How Did This Get Made?
Everybody. Oh, I am truly shocked. Thank you, Podcast Academy. This is such an incredible honor. What a great show. And I just want to say that although Jason, June, and I are the faces or the voices that you hear in our podcast, there's so many people who make this show. And that is our producer, Cody Fisher, our sound engineer, Devin Bryan, our producer, Molly Reynolds. Of course, the person who makes all of Earwolf special and great, Colin Anderson, and of course, July Diaz. These are the people, including Avril Halley and Nate Kiley, who make our show run. And I just want to give them a shout out. I'm frankly flabbergasted. I thought Trevor Noah was going to walk away with this. And to beat Nicole Byer twice, I mean, this is great for me. I can't wait to rub that in her face. But thank you so much. This means the absolute world. We've been doing this for 12 years, and to be recognized by the Academy is such an honor.
Hello again. I did not come to yell at you, I promise. So I'm taking the place of someone who's not going to be here, so I'm stepping in. Dallas was supposed to say I'm really excited to be here and be a presenter and as a nominee. I'm not nominated for anything. But he said, I found my way into podcasting as a sound designer. So I know what a powerful storytelling tool sound is. This is especially true when reporting important events around the world. I talk about reality TV, whatever. Nearly a quarter of Americans get some level of news from podcasts, and that number is much higher among 18 to 29-year-olds. That means that over the next decade, the importance of news podcasts will continue to grow. That said, here are the nominees for Best News Podcast. And the winner is for Best News Podcast, Up First.
Thank you so much. Up First was NPR's first daily podcast. And I just want to give a shout out to the entire team that stays up all night to publish the podcast every day at 6 a.m. So here's the Up First team.
Hi, everybody. There was supposed to be a really fancy VO that was happening when I came out, but I am Dallas Taylor with the podcast 20,000 Hertz. And I'm, thank you. The Podcast Academy is announcing 2 new categories this year. One of them is the Best Podcast for Kids. And as a father of 3 amazing young kids, this category is really important to me because no one has a bolder vision for what the world can be than children. As storytellers, we have the ability to feed their curiosity, to inspire their compassion, and to encourage their imagination. Here are the nominees for Best Podcast for Kids. right. And the winner is Music Blocks, who will join us right here.
Wow, that's crazy. Well, thank you, Podcast Academy members, for this recognition. A lot of the credit goes to my co-host, Rebecca Romberg, who's also our lead producer but couldn't be here tonight. Thank you to our executive producer, Brad Turner, our curriculum advisor, Carla Aguilar, our editors, Joe Erickson, Dennis Funk, and Mia Rincon, who created our podcast art. And thank you to our Colorado Public Radio colleagues and at CPR Classical. And a special thanks to the parents, teachers, and students who use Music Blocks in their homes and classrooms to spread our shared love of music with the next generation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And now to introduce our next category, it's my honor to turn things over to journalist, author, podcaster, and beloved co-anchor of the Today Show, Hoda Kotb.
Hi guys, I am so excited to be with you tonight and incredibly honored to be among this year's nominees. It has been such a thrill to launch my new podcast, Making Space with Hoda Kotb. I just want to say thank you to everyone who is listening. This has been such an exciting adventure for me. I have such respect for everybody in this podcast space. And I didn't realize that it was going to be so much different than television and so much fun. I've really enjoyed it. It's a skill set, and I'm really just honored and privileged to be here with you guys. And this craft is something that you guys have worked on for a long time, and I'm excited to be included in your group. And I'm also excited to be presenting the award for Best Podcast Reporting. This one, of course, is quite near and dear to my heart. Reporters are simply a lifeline of information. They are essential in keeping the public informed. We know the hours are long, the process can be tedious, but when it's done right, good reporting can shine a light on a dark, dark corner. It can change lives in the process. This year's nominees for Best Reporting are
Hoda.
I love Hoda. I feel like I know her, you know what I mean? Don't you feel that way with Hoda? Yeah.
But wait, don't you know Hoda?
Oh, yeah, I do. That explains it. Yeah, okay.
And this year's Ambie for Best Reporting goes to
9/12. Congratulations.
Oh my God. For a series like this, there's not one reporter who does the work. There's an entire team of people who supports people who are ready to tell their stories for the first time and relentlessly calls the people who don't know that they're ready and builds trust and asks hard questions. On 9/12, that team was Natalie Brennan, Jessica Lusenhop, Maria Alexa Kavanaugh, Henry Malofsky, Maddie Sprung-Kaiser, Joel Lovell, and of course, Dan Taberski, who is a magical, magical combination of gentle and ruthless. On behalf of all of us, thank you.
So exciting, I know. So to introduce the next award, please welcome a founding governor of the Podcast Academy, Carrie Hoffman from PRX. Yay!
Thank you, Nikki. Each year, the leaders of the Podcast Academy bestow the Governor's Award on a show or a person that has had a major impact and influence in the medium. This year, we present the award to two individuals whose show turned hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people onto podcasting. They inspired countless of others to follow in their footsteps. And so it's the Podcast Academy's honor to present this year's Governor's Award to Julie Snyder and Sarah Koenig for Serial.
Listen, I love podcasting.
And many of you have been doing it since before Serial. But for a period of time, Serial was podcasting. The first podcast that we made was directly influenced by Serial. Even the word influence doesn't do it justice. Truthfully, there wouldn't be an Up and Vanished or a Tenderfoot TV without Serial.
I've worked in podcasting and public radio for a long time, and I can't think of a show that has had more of a significant impact on the industry than Serial. They're responsible for bringing in a lot of new fans to the whole industry, but they also inspired so many to make their own show, build their own company.
I remember it as if it were today. I was coming back on a long flight and I binge listened to the last 5 episodes of Serial. And at some point my head exploded. I realized we were in front of a new form of storytelling.
They made excellent journalism totally accessible. The editorial choice that they made way back in season 1 to find something that was so relatable. Could you remember what you were doing for 20 minutes on a weekday 6 weeks ago? Could you do it at all? Could you do it with accuracy? Would you get some things right, maybe some things wrong? It was like they opened a door and we all walked in.
Serial was my first experience as a podcast listener. Of course there were great podcasts before, but Serial took everything that was great about podcasts and brought it to a gigantic level. It was the audio blueprint for serialized true crime storytelling.
Serialized narrative audio that allowed listeners to put themselves in the shoes of the people in the story in a more emotional, a more impactful, in a more powerful way than I had ever experienced before. And I knew then that tens of millions of people were going to have their lives touched by podcasting from that moment on.
I think Serial is so consistently excellent, and it's like a masterclass in excellent writing, excellent reporting, excellent sound design, and they've really lifted the whole industry.
So yeah, it was the fastest podcast in Apple's history to hit 5 million downloads, breaking every record. It opened the world's eyes to podcasting and inspired thousands of us to tell important stories that the world needed to hear and that other mediums refused to tell. We were all inspired to get into this medium for one reason or another. So I'm not saying that we're all here because of Serial. I'm saying that we're all here because of Serial. Sarah, Julie, and the team were the rising tide that lifted all boats, making it easier for the rest of us to reach audiences and advertisers. So the least we could do is present them with this Ambies Governor's Award for podcasting.
And though Sarah and Julie couldn't be with us tonight here in Los Angeles in person, we're pleased to have them join us virtually.
Thank you guys so much. I was going to come on here and be like, I'm so honored, but I'm actually really honored by that intro. It's really, we're so grateful for this from the Ambies board. So really, thank you. We're really grateful. And it is crazy to just see tonight and also just think about how much the podcasting world has changed since Julie and I launched Serial in 2014. I think back then there really wasn't much of a podcasting world at all. There weren't that many people listening to podcasts. And we talk about it a lot, how much we liked that time because the pressure was so low. It just felt like we could experiment, and if it didn't work, no one was going to notice. But most importantly for us, I feel like it allowed us to figure out a way to tell the story that was going to be the best serve that story. So it gave us that space. And that was our goal back then. That has always and then continued to be our goal. And it's what keeps us going is asking that question, what is the best way to tell this story? So that we can get to the things that we love most about the story, the things we find complicated and compelling and enraging and enlightening.
You guys, we see so much of that same spirit in the nominees tonight. I can't even tell you, looking at all of the different ways that you guys as creators have found to use the effect to its best medium and with navigating complicated investigative stories, exploiting sort of the intimacy of the medium, exploring niche topics, connecting with subjects with humor and your curiosity. And it's really an amazing community, honoring all the possibilities of audio and storytelling. And now there kind of is a podcast world, and we're so honored and really thankful to be a part of it. So thank you guys so much.
All right. Okay, now please join us in welcoming the author, educator, and the host of the Happiness Lab, Dr. Lori Santos.
Thanks to the Ambies for having me here as a presenter and also for nominating my podcast, The Happiness Lab, for Best Personal Growth and Spirituality Podcast. Right now, I'm excited to be presenting the award for Best Wellness and Relationships Podcast. Wellness podcasts and relationship podcasts, they share a common goal. It's to help us lead a better life, whether that's by avoiding toxic foods or toxic relatives. Today's nominees help us do that and so much more.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Santos. And here is the result. This year's Ambie for Best Wellness or Relationship Podcast goes to On Purpose with Jay Shetty. Hey!
Feeling extremely grateful and honored to be up here. Such an esteemed set of nominees, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge each and every one of them, because the work that this space is doing, and anyone who has a podcast that's trying to positively improve the lives of others, I thank all of you, I admire all of you, and I appreciate all of you. I want to thank my amazing team, my Chief of Staff, Rula, who's with me today, who I couldn't do anything without, my amazing coordinator, Jordan, my incredible producer, Brad, videographer, Homer, and the entire On Purpose team. And to everyone who's listened to the podcast, I know around the world there are millions of listeners who I've never met. I hope one day I get to hug and shake hands with. And to every guest who agreed to come on and pour their soul and heart without worrying about what people would think or say, and to the Academy and everyone else who made this possible. Thank you so much.
Nikki, has anyone seen Nikki? Help, Nikki, please, someone help.
Right here.
Damn
My
it.
gosh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm eating a snack.
I was going to try to sell a mini-series of kind of Finding Nikki, where I search for you over 5 episodes.
I should have just waited longer.
Any buyers? No? Understood.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You know, Krista Tippett, who won an Ambie last year hi, Krista, in this next category, says that spirituality is reality-based because it's about making peace with what is. So let that sink in for a second. So let's recognize the podcasts that help us make peace in the world. Here are this year's nominees for Best Personal Growth Spirituality Podcast.
Enlightened. All right, here the Ambie for Best Personal Growth Spirituality Podcast goes to Life Kit.
Yay! Woo!
Congrats.
I guess I'll be a little slower this time. My name's Anya Grunman. I'm the head of programming at NPR, and I'm also a member of the Podcast Academy, and I want to thank all of my colleagues for making this beautiful event. Life Kit was born out of the idea that a 400-person news and journalism organization could make content that was useful, engaging, and connected with people were in their lives. And so our team that's done that has really shaken things up at NPR, and it's given so many journalists at NPR an opportunity to think about how to make people's lives better and how to make the world better. So thank you very much.
How are you feeling?
I'm killing you.
Okay, so before we go on, can we please give it up for another one of our sponsors? Thank you so much for your support.
Take a look.
Once upon a time in a land of mediocrity, there was a town called Argyle. There lived a celebrated substitute bowler with absolutely no dreams of actually bowling. As fate would have it, the first day he tried would be the last day he lived. That's when an ordinary hot dog eating contest and an extraordinarily sharp lawn dart led to his tragic demise. This is one murder with everything on it. Summer in Argyle.
All right, now we all have that relative who's kind of nosy and asks rude questions, right? You know who I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Like, why are you not married?
Yeah. Or is that a toupee?
Did you put on weight?
I know you're not talking to me. Well, an interviewer is someone who does this perhaps more subtly and gets away with it,
Yes,
you know?
and in this room is celebrated for it.
Yes,
So here are the nominees for Best Interview Podcast.
For Best Interview Podcast, the nominees are 70 Over 70. Billy Was a Black Woman. I Weigh with Jamila Jamil. Jamel Hill is Unbothered. Profoundly Pointless. The Problem with Jon Stewart. Trafficked with Mariana Van Zeller.
And this year's Ambies for Best Interview Podcast goes to 70 Over 70.
Hey!
Congrats! Yay! Good job.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
I'm Max.
I'm
Go.
Jess.
I hosted it. Jess produced it along with a great team. I feel like everyone has come up here and been like, my team. But I would just like to emphasize, I have no idea what I'm about to say. I plan nothing. Jess did basically all of the work. Jess, can you just say something for me?
Yeah, we would like to thank our team of Janella Anderson, Maddie Sprung-Kaiser, Charlie Locke, Joel Lovell, Elliot Adler, and everyone at Pineapple.
Thank you.
Fun. You having a good time still? Yes, good. Well, okay. I think we can all agree in this world where we're all divided on one thing that Judy Garland said it best, right? That's entertainment. Yep. Well, here are the nominees for the, I had to quote Judy Garland, hello. Best Entertainment Podcast.
For Best Entertainment Podcast, the nominees are Back Issue, Even the Rich, New Rory and Mal, Song Exploder, The Boys, the official podcast, The Friendship Onion, The Plot Thickens.
And the winner is...
Back Issue.
Woo!
Thank you.
Oh my God.
I want to thank Pineapple Street Studios, everyone there, Tracy, co-host, and the team that we work with. Emmanuel Hapsis, John Asante, Leela Day, Alexis Moore, Zandra Ellen, Brianna Garrett, Arlene Revelo, Jenna Weiss-Berman, and Max Linsky, obviously. Who you want to thank?
Hi, I'm not supposed to be up here. I understand that, but I'm so excited. I want to thank God and my mama and all the pineapple and everyone. This is so neat. Thank you.
It's truly an honor. Thank you.
I broke it.
Yay! Congratulations. I love seeing people so excited. Okay, so now please join us in welcoming the host of ABC's Start Here, Brad Milkey.
Come on, Brad.
Hi, Brad.
This is great. It's great being here. It's great presenting. It's great to have the space to celebrate the work of all these podcasts that are just upping the game. Awards time. All right. The average podcast has 245,000 words in it. That's not true. I just made that up. Podcasts do have a lot of words, though, but sometimes they also have music for dramatic effect, or just to give the host or the audience a break. So tonight, we honor those who elevate our listening experience through music with nominations for Best Original Score and Supervision. And this year's Ambie for Best Original Score and Supervision goes to 9/12.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so grateful, very humble to stay here with this award in my hand. I'd like to thank Pineapple Street Studios for inviting me to make the 9/12 score, and especially Dan, Courtney, and Henry for the most inspirational artistic cooperation. My musicians, Jacob and Espen, and of course, huge thanks to E2 Music, Amazon Music, and Monterey for making a lot of people listening to this. Thank you so much.
This year's list of nominated documentary podcasts covers a broad range of important and sometimes overlooked topics, from American war veterans to an attack on the American diplomatic compound in Libya to women serving time in Canada's correctional system. Here are the nominees for Best Documentary Podcast.
For Best Documentary Podcast, the nominees are American Veteran, Unforgettable Stories, Life Jolt, Embedded, Fiasco Benghazi, On Our Watch, Post Reports, Stay Away from Matthew McGill.
And this year's Ambie for Best Documentary Podcast goes to Stay Away from Matthew McGill. All right, no one here, but hey, good job. Excellent. Excellent. All right, let's move on. In the wise words of Emil Faber, the founder of the fictional Faber College, knowledge is good, so wise, so true. Our nominees for Best Knowledge, Science, or Tech Podcast take complicated subject matter and deliver it to us in an understandable and entertaining way. Winner for Best Knowledge, Science, or Tech Podcast overheard at National Geographic.
God, this is so ridiculous. We feel so honored, honestly, to work on this ridiculous podcast. I mean, we just released an episode today featuring a scientist who licks every frog he meets. It's so crazy. Thank you to Peter, Amy, our hosts, Ilana, Brian, Jacob, Kyrie, Devar Ardalan, Whitney Johnson for trusting me to edit this podcast. Really, thank you so much for allowing us to feature explorers from all over the world.
Please welcome to the stage the Hollywood Reporter's awards columnist and host of Awards Chatter, Scott Feinberg.
Hi. Thank you for including me tonight. It's exciting to see podcasts getting respect. I think we all know how hard we all work, so it's a nice step. Tonight it's a treat for me to note how writers are very important in podcasting. They are important everywhere in the world, but particularly I would say in this field, they are heroic, gorgeous, underpaid. Oh wait, I get it, a writer wrote this. Nice try, writer. Here are the nominees for Best Script Writing Fiction. And this year's Ambie for Best Scriptwriting Fiction goes to Soft Voice.
Oh, blimey. Well, thank you very, very much. I did actually write something down, but it fell out of my pocket, so I'm just going to be improvising. Just thank you so much. There's a few people I'd like to thank specifically. My manager, Josh Glick, who's with me, who had the idea when I wrote this short story to turn it into a podcast. I'd like to thank everyone at Q-Code, everyone who performed in the podcast and gave such a fantastic performance. And yeah, just thank you so much.
Congratulations. And now let's hear from some of our other nominees.
I'm somebody who has spent weeks and tens of thousands of miles driving cross-country alone in a car. And it's been the podcast world that keeps me going and makes the miles and the states go by quickly and fills my heart and my mind with beautiful stories. And I wanted to be a part of that. So we wrote Aftershock and we called our friends and they helped. And this nomination, this Ambie nomination, means the world to all of us involved in this. So, and hopefully somebody is driving a truck or a car cross country and gets to listen to our story and it makes the miles go faster.
What drove us to wanting to make Carcerum is we love working on original material and we love the medium itself.
As somebody who's been creating audio dramas since around 2009 and grew up listening to them, being honored by the Ambie Awards is incredible. To have the recognition amongst peers and being able to share this with the world is truly an honor.
This podcast was an accident. It wasn't my idea. It was the idea of Sarah Birmingham, our founding story editor, and with the help of Jenna Weiss-Berman from Pineapple Street Studios. We decided to go back into the past and access my archive of more than 100 interviews that I conducted for the Making Gay History book more than 30 years ago. So we've now been producing the Making Gay History podcast since 2016 and are releasing a new season in the fall called Coming of Age During the 1970s.
What happened in Skinner started as just conversations we were having with each other about religion and the different ways people can interact with it.
And at the time, we were also working on this found footage project about a 1920s film reel.
And it occurred to us that we could just put those together. So what happened in Skinner is about religion and also about friendship and legacy and privilege and the nature of storytelling.
Being Ambie nominated is a huge deal for us because we spent 2 years making this thing from our living rooms. And the really amazing thing about podcasting is you can do that and still connect with people all over the world.
We created this podcast because Todd had already created a killer graphic novel and decided a podcast was the way to really hear it and see this crazy world that he created. We are so honored to be nominated for Best Indie Podcast by the Ambies. And we are so stoked to be in that room with all the other podcasters and talents.
This next category attracts actors who are well known from their movie and TV work, including last year, Willem Dafoe and Matthew McConaughey. This is the category for people who don't have a face for podcasting. Here are this year's nominees for Best Performer in Audio Fiction. This is a little incestuous because the winner of this year's Ambie for Best Performer in Audio Fiction was a wonderful nonfiction guest on my podcast, a terrific talent. Congratulations to Rosamund Pike for her performance in Edith.
Hello, it's me, Rosamund Pike. No, I'm not, I'm kidding. Nobody laughed at that, thank you very much. I will actually have a message from Rosamund Pike on my phone. I got a little nervous and did not find it, but she says that she wishes politics was this fun in real life, and thank you to all of you. And I also, someone who was supposed to accept this award tonight was the director, Maureen Barucha. She couldn't make it here tonight, but I'm sure she would thank her as well. So thank you on behalf of Rosamund Pike.
Please welcome to the stage podcast creator Dan Taberski.
Hi. It was Karl Marx who said history repeats itself. First as tragedy, second as farce, and eventually in someone's history podcast. Here are the nominees for Best History Podcast.
For Best History Podcast, the nominees are Black Cowboys, Human Resources, Making Gay History, Mogul, Slow Burn, Telling Our Twisted Histories, Throughline.
And this year's Ambie for Best History Podcast goes to Slow Burn, the LA riots.
Whoa. Wow. Well, first of all, thanks to everyone for putting together the Ambies and the Podcast Academy for this tremendously humbling and gratifying honor. I wish I could have been there maybe next year. I was told the attire was cocktail casual, so I wore a collared shirt for only the third time this year. But I really want to thank Slate leadership, Dan Check, Charlie Camera, Jared Holt in particular, for believing in this project, and for our Slow Burn team, especially Gabriel Roth, Josh Levine, Jason DeLeon, Ethan Brooks, Sophie Summergrad, and Jasmine Ellis. Also Katie Rayford, Merritt Jacob, Jim Cook, Don Will, Child 2, and my agent Tyler Glass. You all hear my voice, but it's all of those people and so many more who stitch it together and make it happen. Special mention goes to all the people who opened up to us and told us their stories, from Johnny Kelly to Shanice Harlins to Tim Golden and so many others. Thanks for trusting us, and thanks for bringing our story to life. And most importantly, thanks to my baby Janae and my soon-to-be baby boy Desmond. Love you both so much. Thank you.
When Orson Welles broadcast his radio drama War of the Worlds in 1938, the panic it created among listeners was so intense that police were flooding into the studio before it was even over to try and yank him off the air. That's how visceral his storytelling was. Fiction podcast creators have been chasing that dragon ever since. Here are the nominees for Best Fiction Podcast.
Best Fiction Podcast. Brought to you by Apollo Podcasts. Here are the nominees. Black Box, Orphan Black, The Next Chapter. Princess of South Beach. Tejana. The Miseducation of John Mark. The Zip Code Plays, Los Angeles. Treat.
And this year's Ambie for Best Fiction Podcast goes to Tejana.
Wow, this is crazy. Thank you to Stephanie Beatrice, our incredible lead, Sean Elliott, everyone at Authentic, our wonderful partners at Telemundo, and last but not least, our incredible Sonoro team. I have my colleague here with me for moral support. We are 100% Latino. We're here to empower Latinx storytellers in audio and beyond, and we're just so thrilled that this story about a powerful Latina resonated with all of you, so thank you so much.
And now, please welcome the Podcast Academy Board of Governors Chairman and co-founder of Tenderfoot TV, Donald Albright.
Thank you. Everyone likes winning awards, and if you say you don't, you're probably lying. But especially when you're being honored by your peers. We're here tonight to celebrate the very best in our industry, but the Podcast Academy is not just about awards. We're finding new ways to bring the podcast community together, and we understand that education and access will make our industry stronger, which is why I'm excited that we recently hired an education director who is spearheading initiatives like our expanded mentorship program, webinars, and masterclasses. We want to be the organization that nurtures future leaders of our industry. And as promised at last year's Ambies, we launched our paid internship program as part of our diversity, equity, and inclusion platform. Give it up for that. The Podcast Academy is by and for all types of podcasters, from new to established, indies to majors. Let's meet a few of our members and hear from them about the value of the Podcast Academy.
I value the Podcast Academy for one very simple reason: its members.
The Podcast Academy is a great way of connecting with industry professionals across the globe.
It gives a lot of opportunities for meeting people who are outside of your current professional circle.
It gives independent creators like me a home, a place to network and build connections, and even find mentors.
Since joining the Podcast Academy, I've been introduced to many people across the industry I normally wouldn't have access to. These meetings have opened doors for me and have also led to meaningful conversations that I will take with me for the rest of my career.
It's a community where I've been able to collaborate and learn, from the independents to the big audio conglomerates to the networks in between. Whether it's a lunch and learn, a mentoring opportunity, or the celebration of great audio, the Podcast Academy is positively influencing the evolution of the podcast industry.
My hope for the Podcast Academy is that it becomes the place for podcasters, both in this country and around the world.
Since the industry is becoming more and more international, there are lots of opportunities for us to connect, share knowledge, resources, and try to build something interesting together.
I think that the Podcast Academy in the future can help lead podcasting to the next generation, not only the next generation of technology, but the next generation of people.
I'm really excited to see how all of us together will continue to shape the future of our industry. And I look forward to seeing how we can recognize, appreciate, and continue to listen to amazing stories, amazing podcasts, and amazing creations from all over the world.
There is a huge value to this industry as a whole to have a body that is seeking to legitimize the work that we do.
I'm looking forward to continuing my membership in the Podcast Academy and seeing this industry grow.
I look forward to the future of podcasting and the future of the Podcast Academy.
I really look forward to being part of it again this year and hopefully meeting a lot of you live in person.
You've heard a lot about sponsors tonight, and you're about to hear a little bit more. Before we move on to our next award, I want to again take a moment to call attention to this evening's sponsors. Everything that the Podcast Academy is currently doing and hopes to do in the future depends not only on the support of our members, but also on the support of these organizations. Our sponsors, along with the members who you just heard from, understand that podcasting isn't a hobby, it's now a business. For some, it's a small business. For others, it's big business. And you might even win an award for making a podcast. And you can even make a business out of making a podcast about business. Like these nominees for Best Business Podcast. And this year's Ambie for Best Business Podcast goes to Business Wars.
Wow, it really happened. I wrote this just in case. I didn't want to leave anybody out. The idea behind Business Wars hinges on the bare-knuckled battles behind everything you buy, from a McDonald's burger to a Gucci gown to a Tesla. My name's Karen Lowe. I'm the senior producer of Business Wars, and I am thrilled to accept this award on behalf of an extraordinary team at Wondery. A special thanks to David Brown, our unflappable host, a toast to our hugely talented writers and my fellow editor and producer, Emily Frost, and to our sound magician, Kyle Randall. Here's to our producer, Dave Schilling, and deep, deep gratitude to the steady hands and creative minds of executive producers, Jenny Lauer Beckman and Marshall Louis, who were on the front lines from the very first battle. And thank you, Hernan Lopez, I know you're in the house somewhere, for saying yes instantly to this idea. Thank you.
Please welcome Wondery CEO, Jen Sargent, joined this evening by the co-hosts of Even the Rich, Brooke Sifrin and Arisha Skidmore Williams.
Great. Thank you, voice of God that came from the sky. We are first so excited to be here with all of you today, a group of people that share a deep passion for podcasting. Before we get into the next award, I'd like to thank the Podcast Academy for inviting us to present. The work you are doing is so important to shine a light on this powerful medium and the exceptional journalism, storytelling, conversations, and sound design that goes on every day in the podcast industry. Audio is an exceptionally engaging medium, specifically podcasts, and its rapid adoption is helping to shape and change the world we live in.
So I love this next category, and I'm not saying that because the teleprompter told me to. I truly do love it. The work done in production and sound design ensures that the listener stays completely focused and engaged with the story being told and isn't distracted by outside elements like jobs.
Face it, if it weren't for production and sound design, these shows would be a whole lot of sirens, barking dogs, and episodes that have you scratching your head saying, "What was that?" Production and sound designers are the heroes who take the rough, and by rough, we mean very rough, cuts and turn them into audio gold.
Here are the nominees for Best Production and Sound Design. And the winner for Best Production and Sound Design, 20,000 Hertz.
This podcast started as a passion project from my sound design company, so this is so awesome. Totally independent podcast. I'd like to shout out for that too. I have to thank the team at De Facto Sound. I'm the one that talks the most, but they're the ones that really do the work. That's Casey, Samantha, Jai, Colin, Nick, Joel, Justin, Soren, and Ryan. I have to thank our guests and our incredible 15 independent writers that kind of cycle through these shows. And a huge thanks to Google Drive and Pro Tools.
On our podcast, Even the Rich, available wherever you get your podcasts, we tell the stories of some of the greatest family dynasties in history.
And while podcasting allows us to tell lesser-known stories about well-known people, it also offers the perfect platform for telling stories about people and events that you maybe wouldn't have heard of otherwise.
And a number of our nominees this evening did just that with their work.
I started the show to get normal people more in tune with their sense of hearing, and to bring hearing into the same level of curation and care as our other senses, like sight, touch, taste, and smell. And since sound influences so much of our world, we get to tell all kinds of stories. And the thing that I'm looking forward to most is just catching up in real life with amazing creators, and I have no doubt it's going to be an amazing night.
This podcast was produced by a talented group of people at Insignia Films for GVH. What led to this creation was the fascinating and incredibly humbling experience of sitting across from veterans who represent all walks of life. Ultimately, we decided to create a podcast because it was the best opportunity to tell a veteran's story from start to finish. We're thrilled at American Veteran to be nominated for an Ambie and be recognized among such outstanding work.
Confronting Columbine is the second season of the Confronting series. This show is about transformative events in American history told by the people that lived through them.
The Ambie nomination is a testament to the entire Confronting team, which has now produced 2 seasons of Confronting. The entire team put so much time, energy, and heart into this story that to get the nomination is just a testament to everyone's dedication to telling the story.
I want to thank Amy Over, the Columbine community, the Rebels Project, and the people of Littleton, Colorado, who opened up their arms and let us share their story. Without them, this wouldn't be possible.
When we set out to make this podcast, we wanted to tell the story from a different perspective than it had in the past. We wanted to center the story on Reva Steenkamp and the other people Pistorius hurt along the way. We also wanted to explore some important issues at the heart of this story: hero worship, toxic masculinity, and gender-based violence, to name a few. I also want to thank the Podcast Academy for recognizing our show alongside so many other great podcasts. We really appreciate it.
We first made the podcast because we just wanted to talk to each other about basketball. And we were missing female voices in basketball that talked about it from all the ways we wanted to hear it covered. So that's originally why we made it. And we are just extremely, extremely thankful that other people want to listen as well.
Yes, and we are so thankful to be nominated for an Ambie Award. Thank you so much.
Another new category the Podcast Academy added this year is an award for Best Indie Podcast. Like indie bands or indie films, indie podcasts work on a smaller budget, sometimes no budget, but create meaningful and unexpected art. They're truly the heart and soul of our industry, and that's where Arisha and I both started. Here are the nominees in the brand new category of Best Indie Podcast.
Best Indie Podcast. Brought to you by Tenderfoot TV. Here are the nominees: Aftershock, An Arm and a Leg, Because I Said So, Earth Eclipsed, For Blood or Justice, Walls in Prime, What Happened in Skinner.
And the winner for Best Indie Podcast is An Arm and a Leg.
No way. Holy moly. Wow. All right, cool. Neat. I'm just here representing the people who make this show with me, who will make it possible. So making it with me, that's Marian Wang, Emily Pizzacreta, Daisy Rosario, Adam Raymunda, Gabrielle Healy, our first editors, Whitney Henry Lester, and Ann Hepperman. And at Kaiser Health News, that's Elizabeth Rosenthal, Diane Weber, David Rousseau, and Tanya English. We talk about all the time. Making it possible, been supporting us in every way since it was just a couple pages in a notebook. AC Valdez, Sally Herships, Luis Antonio Perez, Carolina Gonzalez, Roman Mars, Avery Truffleman, Jeff Lieber, my mom, my partner. Thank you. And thank you so much. Oh my God, I had no idea this was going to happen. Thank you.
Okay, lots of clapping. You holding up, everybody?
Yeah, we good?
We got
All right.
more awards to come.
We do. Sports. Right? The old
Yes.
sports ball, right?
Yep.
The yearly bowl thing where you hold the cup up and you're like, sports!
Love
There's
that.
madness, some event, and can you help me out here? I don't really know.
Balls. Here are the nominees for the Best Sports Podcast. Not what I thought it was about. Okay, the winner is The Lead. Hey!
Congratulations!
It's official.
Congrats!
Okay, we didn't think we were going to win. First of all, thank you to the Podcast Academy. This is a wonderful event, especially for a first go at it. It's incredible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the people that help us make this show. We're a daily sports show. It's not easy to do. Thank you to Matt, to Ian, and to Julie in particular. Thank you to Marshall and Jen and everyone at Wondery. And thank you to The Athletic, who helps us tell incredible sports stories every day.
Our episode was about the women's Afghanistan soccer team fleeing the country after, we left the country. And, oh my God, like, Khalida Papal and Haley Carter, like, thank you to them for telling their story and everything, and to all the refugees in general, like, who's out there, and just thank you for everything. I mean, I'm shocked. I'm still stunned. Thank you.
That's on with duct tape. Okay. Congratulations. Hi.
Hi, we're back. Did you miss? No, you didn't miss it. Okay. Before we go on, let's hear from another one of our sponsors tonight, and we just want to thank the sponsors so much for their support. We love you guys.
We should do our own true crime podcast.
And this is based on this podcast that was fascinating.
I loved it so much.
This is huge for me. Comedy Actress Roundtable. I'm freaking out.
When a special character or special script comes along, the stars just feel like they align.
People were just gripped by this podcast.
You listen to the first episode and then you just binge the rest. Of course they want to make this into a show.
How did you feel acting with these two legends?
It was fascinating to me. It seemed like a radio show.
I went from the only high-profile person having a podcast to the only high-profile person not having a podcast.
Hey, Nikki, so you know the answer to this question, but what does it take to be a great podcast host?
Well, firstly, you have to be good looking.
Thank you. And humble. You have to have a deep, rich voice like me. Yeah.
And you need a microphone.
Well, now you can't argue with that. And here are this year's good-looking, rich voice nominees for Best Podcast Host.
For Best Podcast Host, the nominees are Emma Cortland.
The crime at the heart of this story is significantly more sinister.
Moya Lothian McLean.
A journalist on the journey to discover the truth about Britain's slaving history.
Sam Sanders.
The Space Force?
Stacey, you don't know about the Space Force?
No! What?
Jameel Hill.
So let me ask you, when did you become unbothered?
Shah Jahan Khan.
Growing up as a Muslim kid in America in the 80s and 90s was hard.
Malcolm Gladwell.
Yes, you heard that correctly. I had never seen The Little Mermaid.
Nicole Byer.
But for whatever reason with love, I don't think that's a thing I can manifest, and I don't know why.
Okay, can you just clap for all of them? Because that is such hard work.
Yes! Yay!
So no matter who wins, really phenomenal work to all the hosts.
Yes, absolutely.
But the winner is It's Been a Minute with Sam Sanders.
I don't have a laptop right now because I'm in between jobs and work took it back. So I didn't write anything. I didn't prepare anything. But I realized when I was driving up here that I had been to the Mayan before. I had forgotten, but I've been here before. About 8 or 9 years ago, I was on a date with Pietro, the Italian museum curator. And I don't know who suggested it, but we came to an MIA concert here. And MIA is very loud, but very good, and I love her. And we both were trying to impress the other, so we pushed towards the front, towards these walls of speakers, and the music was just too loud. And I was trying way too hard to be cool and be close to the speakers, and finally I faked the bathroom break to go to CVS and buy some earplugs. And I came back with my earplugs, hoping that Pietro would not notice, and he saw them, and he said, "Can I have some too?" And I thought about that story walking into the Mayan tonight, and I said, the lesson of that for me is try hard, but don't fake it. And I think the lesson of It's Been a Minute and what I've tried to be as a host, as someone who tries really hard but doesn't fake it. The team that makes this show is incredibly authentic and real and full of purpose, and every conversation that we have, we feel it. I want to thank the members of that team that help me make this show every week. Andrea, who is here tonight, Jordana, our editor, Janae and Anjali and Liam and Asia, and the crew of NPR folks who gave the green light for this show that felt like a little bit of everything. Thanks to Anya and Brent and Steve for saying yes and always finding ways to say yes. I'm so grateful, and this looks like an Oscar. I fucking love it. Thank y'all.
By a live microphone goes to that.
Right?
You know, we've been having such a fun time with you. Backstage, Nikki said out loud, she was there, she goes, "We've got this, we've got this, we've got this." I said, "Nikki, it's going great." She said, "I'm talking to my feet because they're hurting so bad."
I have not had heels on in 2 years, and my feet are like, "Why are you doing this?"
I know, but we're doing this because we've reached our final category tonight, the big enchilada.
So exciting.
But I do have to say, to whoever wins, be careful. This award is cursed. It is jinxed. Whoever wins this, their career is ruined.
But Ross actually won this award last year.
Oh, honey, I know. All right. So mean. I don't really mean it. I love her. Here are the nominees for the big one, Podcast of the Year.
Podcast of the Year. Brought to you by Odyssey. Here are the nominees. 9/12.
How 9/11 the day so quickly became 9/11 the idea.
A Slight Change of Plans.
A show about who we are and who we become in the face of a big change.
Alligator Candy.
The story I've chased the longest
is about my brother John.
Believe her.
Nobody won. He's dead and she's in jail. Nobody won.
Bill Simmons Podcast.
Let's bring in Pearl Jam. Let's get going. I'm ready to talk some hoops.
Earth Eclipsed.
It's just... Well, I never knew space could be such an adventure.
False Idol.
I just wanted Oscar to say, I'm sorry, this is what I did, and that was never going to happen.
Have you heard George's podcast?
Have you heard George's podcast?
Hooked.
Let's be clear here. I'm not saying it's okay to rob a bank.
The Imperfection.
You and I both suffer from a very rare form of mental illness, right?
All right, okay. Before we open this, I do want to say, Nikki, I am so proud of you for winning the first ever last year, Dying for Sex, everybody. And I've seen up close and personal what this award can do, you know? It's been amazing to see. And now we're going to hand it off to someone else.
Yes.
I can't imagine anyone more qualified than you to do it.
Thank you, baby. All right, the winner of Podcast of the Year is 912. Woo! So exciting. There you are. Woo!
There you go. Come here.
This is so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is a nightmare. Just really quick, where's Courtney Harrell? Courtney Harrell, you are deeply, truly talented. Thank you for everything. Henry Malofsky, who can't be here because he's got the Rona, I will work with you for the rest of my life. Joe Lovell, Max Linsky, Jenna Weiss-Berman, Morgan Jones, Marshall Louis, and I completely and totally see the impulse now to just list off every name that you know who worked on it, even though it's boring for you, but exciting for me, because when you listen to my podcast, you hear me, but when I listen back to it, I hear all of them. And from beginning to end, all the way through and in the final product, and sometimes it gets really hard, and it's just plain nice to not feel alone. So thank you so much for this, and thank you for the encouragement.
Exciting! Yay!
Wow, all right, everyone. It looks like we're out of awards, and so it's time to wrap up the show.
And we just want to say congratulations to everyone, and especially to all the winners tonight.
Yes. And a huge amount of love to our live audience here in the Mayan Theater tonight. Thank you for coming out. And to all of you watching us online around the world, why are you still watching, honey? Go subscribe and listen to all these amazing podcasts. Yes. Go to sleep, Chardonnay Kwan. Daddy will be home soon. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you so much. I love you.
My brother has a podcast. It never ever panders. It's been a minute since you've heard it. Oh, his name is Sam Sanders.
My little sister's podcast has fans from Omaha to Paris. She said that she's unqualified and her name is Anna Faris.
Mark Maron's show alone could play for 30 years. All podcasts are fantastic. That's the TPA slogan.
Every single one of them? Even Joe Rogan?
Everyone's got one, every mother, son, and daughter.
Sarah, Kenny, Kara, Swisher, Heavyweight, Always Sunny, Up First, Planet Money, Crime Junkie, Dateline, Ben Shapiro, Ezra Klein, making space for hold a copy, nothing rhymes with hold a copy.